Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual Perez Art Museum, Miami. My name is Marie Vickles, and I'm the Director of Education. And tonight we are presenting the online version of our Local Views at PAM program, featuring multidisciplinary artist, Loni Johnson. This live virtual Local Views program is presented with the generous support of the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation and features Miami-based artists sharing their practice and discussing works of art on view at the museum that connect in various ways to their own work. This program aims to provide a first-hand interaction with local artists centered on their creative practice. This casual 30-minute conversation takes place every Thursday, online at 6 p.m. via Facebook Live and YouTube Live. I would like to extend a sincere and heartfelt thanks to all of you joining us tonight. These past 10 days have been exceptionally difficult. And as a 21st century museum dedicated to representing the diverse, multicultural communities of South Florida, the Perez Art Museum Miami strives to serve as a forum for open, honest, and difficult dialogue, while creating understanding through the power of art. Since our birth as an institution, we have dedicated ourselves to the work of Black and Brown artists, and our hearts are with George Floyd, Tony McDade, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and countless others. Now, more than ever, we stand in solidarity with our communities and with those who seek justice and reform. And art has the power to not only inspire, but to make us better people. And I cannot think of a better person than Loni Johnson to lead this evening's session of Local Views. Before I introduce Loni, I would like to acknowledge and thank the incredible team of people that work so very hard to make these programs come together online. Big thank yous to Anita Bram, Associate Director of Adult Programs and Audience Engagement, Claire Allen, Digital Marketing Coordinator, and our world-class AV team, Denise Faxis and Andrew Bird. This program could not happen without your crucial contributions, so thank you all. Let's get started. Loni Johnson is a multidisciplinary artist, born and raised in Miami. Her work includes paintings, drawings, sculpture, performance, and installation art. Loni uses her work to explore how Black women occupy, redefine, and navigate spaces not created for them. She delves into the intimate and personal of how Black women grieve, love, and feel. Loni's performance and installation works focus on the reactivation of feelings of community, ancestral, and historic memory. Loni is an artist, educator, mother, and activist that understands, as an artist, she has a cyclical obligation to give back and nurture her communities with her creative gifts, utilizing those gifts to better our world. As you watch along this evening on Facebook or YouTube Live, please post questions for Loni. She will try to answer as many as possible in the Q&A portion of this evening's presentation. So with that said, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Loni Johnson.
Nice. Hello, hello. Thank you so much, Marie, the AV team, Denise, Andrew, you guys are the ride or dies. Couldn't do it without y'all. Anita for this program, and Franklin Sermons, everybody at PAM. You know, I'm so happy that Marie opened up with paying condolences to the Black bodies that have fallen. I think that my shirt is suiting for tonight. Not today, colonizer. So like Tupac, picture me rolling with my t-shirt on. So I felt like I needed to bring that energy to this space. But again, I'm happy to be here to share space with folks. And I hope that me sharing space with folks will be useful and healing in some sort of way. So I just wanted to kind of focus more on my performance work. I kind of stumbled upon or a better word for it was I got bullied into becoming a performer. There was a point where I was solely just traditional visual artist, painting, drawing, sculpture, being classically trained from New World School of the Arts to then getting my undergrad BFA from SUNY Purchase. But I ended up getting into performance through a great friend of mine, Hattie Mae Williams, who is a amazing sister to me, but also an amazing artist. She is a dancer. She is a site-specific choreographer, and a lot of her work reflected what was happening in my visual arts work. And we met at New World School of the Arts and became, like I said, sisters. And there was a point where she was still in New York and I was back here in Miami, and we reconnected, and she had received a grant from the city of New York to do this performance. And she reached out to me about doing some installation type sculptures for the performance, because she has a dance company called the Tattooed Ballerinas. So I was like, okay, cool. We have been having conversations a lot about, the Black female body and what does it mean to occupy move about the world being a Black woman, and how we're accepted into spaces or not accepted into spaces, and how does that affect you as a woman? I come from a long lineage of strong women. I spent all of my life witnessing them holding space for so many other people. But then I always wondered, well, who held space for them? So a lot of my work is dealing with, how we have to redefine this idea of space and how we enter it and how space responds to us, and just creating a way for us to create space to be held for ourselves and hold that space for each other. So we ended up collaborating, creating Snatched, where we were focusing on this idea of being snatched and displaced from your home, whether it was your home in your spirit, your home in your ancestry, so this idea of home, but being displaced from that. It's, of course, considering the historical fact of Black people being snatched from their homeland and then displaced and dispersed throughout the diaspora. So I created these visceral pods. There's another name for them, but, because we got churn on there, I can't really say what the other name is. So I created these pods that kind of represent the body and this idea of the inside being the more natural and beautiful self. But on the outside, I collected all of these Black male magazines, stills from hip hop videos that were more of this negative connotation of the Black female body and this objectification, and kind of plastering that on the outside as a way to have a commentary on how this imagery is being plastered on ourselves. So Hattie and her dancers created responses and movements and gestures in response to the pods. I even created a pod big enough for the dancers to move in and out of the pod. I don't know if you guys can see it in the far left-hand corner there. And it was almost like the pod in some points were giving birth to them. The reason why I say that I got bullied into becoming a performance installation artist was because if you look at this image here, towards the bottom is me on the stage painting and being a part of the performance. And I remember I was so ready to just, hang the installation and just kind of like chill in the background. And she was like, Hattie was like, no. Why don't you come and be a part of the performance? And I was just like, what? I'm a visual artist. I'm not performing. And because you get so used to, as a visual artist, just being able to, put your heart and soul out on the canvas or in a sculpture or in a ceramic piece, and just placing that object there and kind of backing away from it. So it's like an extension of yourself, but you can kind of detach from it. And so I never considered my body, being more so the vessel of the art and becoming the work. So I was shitting bricks. And because I trusted her so much and I valued her so much as a friend and as an artist, I end up being a part of this performance. So these images are from that performance. And, when you do this kind of work, because we also talk a lot about and incorporate various African traditions and spiritualities. I've always been intrigued by those things and always doing a lot of research and readings about spiritualities in Africa. And Yoruba is one that sticks and rings true to a lot of our process in creating. And Yoruba being the birth mother to Santeria and voodoo, and those things being prevalent here to Miami, we wanted to bring those elements into the work. So I say all of that to say that when you are doing this kind of work, like there's this magic, there's these moments that happen through performance and through the installation work that we do. And in this photo here, the pods were hung from the ceiling on fishing wire. And so they would turn. So in this moment of the performance at the end, it was like we were paying homage to the pods. And there was a point where all of the pods kind of turned to just us being able to see the inside of them. So I guess the ancestors was telling us that's what we need to be focusing on and not what's being plastered and shoved in our face. So that was my entrance point to performance. Again, I never considered performance as another way to create work, but I felt like it was this thing that was kind of inevitable for me to move towards, especially since we were talking so much about the Black female body. And so time passes, and it felt great to collaborate with her. And again, our concepts and what we talk about through our works align a lot. So we decided in, I think it was 2000 something. I know it was 2000 teens. I can't remember, that we wanted to officially become the Om Sisters. And we decided the reason for the Om Sisters is an acronym for the Yoruba numeric equivalent to 305. So 305 in Yoruba is Ogurum Meta Moran. So OMM Sisters, 305 sisters, because we're both born and raised in the County of Dade. So we're both 305 babies. So we wanted to represent that. And again, we wanted our work to have this representation and roots in Miami, because again, this is our city. And we all know that Miami has a very rich culture, and especially with the roots of Santeria and voodoo, and us activating this idea of ancestral and historical memory, it was important for us to kind of consider our home, Miami. So with this next piece that I want to talk about is, we were talking a lot, again, continuing this conversation about the Black female body and do we own our bodies, and how much access does the society have to our bodies, and what does that mean, and how does that affect how we move throughout the world. So we got to thinking about Sarah Bartman, who was a Khoi woman that was snatched and displaced from her home in South Africa, and by the Dutch. And when they invaded her village, she was then taken and paraded around Europe because of what her body stature was. So when she passed away, she was not laid to rest properly. She was then displayed in science museums throughout Europe as if she was not a full human, but a specimen. So what was interesting is she was also a product of and affected so greatly by the white gaze. And although her body type was repelled and ostracized, her body, as you can see here, it inspired the Victorian bustle. So we also got to thinking about, appreciation versus appropriation. So as you can see in my little slide presentation, we're still kind of dealing with this whole appreciation versus appropriation thing with Miss Kim Kardashian there in the same realm with Sarah Bartman. So another icon, I like to call them, is Otabanga, who was a Congolese pygmy who was displayed in the Bronx Zoo in the 1920s with the monkeys. So this idea of not being a human, but an animal, and not having full access to his own body. So yes, he was a man, but it's, again, this idea of not having ownership of our own bodies and this invasion of our space and how spaces respond to just our Blackness. And then we came across the amazing Josephine Baker, who was well aware of the gaze, but she decided through her work and through her performance work that she wanted to confront the gaze. So she was we found it that she was a juxtaposition between Sarah Bartman and Otabanga, because she was well aware of the gaze and she wanted to manipulate and be in full control of the gaze through her work. So Hattie applied for the Miami Light Project's Here and Now Festival, and we were given the opportunity to create Snatched 2.0, where we created a body of work, a performance that was paying homage to these three icons and incorporating sound and visuals and movement and into the work. We worked with two other amazing Black women artists to create this piece. And I feel like this piece really pushed me to a point of exhaustion, because embodying all of this energy of being on view, so to speak, was a lot for all of us. And we were confronted with a lot of things that we thought about and we wanted to address. However, when it's brought up and it's, brought through you, it's a lot. It's a lot. It can be a lot. Performance can be a lot, because I feel like you are truly conjuring up so much. It's like shamanistic work. Like you are conjuring up all of this stuff, you release it, and then you're bringing in all of this back by what you're putting out. So it can be a lot, but this is why you also have to make sure that if it's not just you doing the performance, that the people that you bring into the room to collaborate with are willing and open and capable to help hold the space. And again, this is one of the reasons why I feel like my performance work is so important because we are bringing together all of these Black women and holding the space for each other. So in this image here is the Objectification Box. So I created this wooden box, and I treated it the same way as the pods. And there's a moment in the performance where I get into the box, and as you can see, there are peepholes throughout the box. And what we did during the performance is we split the audience based on whoever identifies as female and then whoever identifies as male. And each group had their separate experience. So the identified male group viewed me in the box, and then the identified female group viewed me in the box. And we incorporated the pods. So when the men folk interacted with the pods, they only interacted with them from the inside. And when the female group interacted with the pods, they only interacted with them face down. So we continue to work. We collaborated with BFI here in Miami, Bass Fisher Invitational. Shout out to Naomi. And I know Danielle is not there anymore, but Danielle Bender, they were huge supporters of the OWN Sisters. So they offered for us to do the opening ceremony of Commonfield, which is a visual arts conference that each year it's in a different part of the United States. And this year it was at, I think this was 2015 or 16 that it was here in Miami. And Hattie and I created this performance piece called Offerings, where we were focusing more on the violence that Black and brown women witness, whether it's to themselves or in their communities, because we have to be honest that Black and brown women are the heartbeats of our neighborhoods, of our communities. We show up for everyone. We show up at these protests. We show up at our jobs. We show up at these schools. I could go on and on and on, but at the end of the day, who shows up for us? So I really wanted, Hattie and I really want to address that through this work, through this piece that we created called Offerings. So we collaborated with the amazing Michelle Grant Murray. Shout out to Michelle. We Aja Darbo, Nicole Salcedo, and Tornika Walker for this piece. And it was just really kind of walking through how Black women, again, have to hold space in spite of mourning, in spite of depression, in spite of lost, and just kind of having to continue to plow through and get shit done. So after the Commonfield performance, and this is the thing about site-specific work that I enjoy also, is that it can be the same rendition of the performance, but it's not going to ever be the same because of where the piece takes place. So we had the opportunity, we collaborated with Muse to do their Basel event at Chef Creole, and did a rendition of Offerings at Chef Creole during Art Basel. So these are images from that. And again, incorporating different elements from Yoruba, placing the castanera, which is the crushed eggshells that provide purity and cleansing of the space. So a lot of times in the beginning of the performance, we open up with us kind of creating our sacred space, so to speak, by sprinkling the castanera around to purify the space. The objectification box again. And we decided to do just she and I with this piece, just to see how the dynamics change. And what's also interesting to me too is if you see here, juxtaposing this body chalk line, but also we use the castanera as the material to do the body chalk line. So it's almost like, she passed, but it's also purifying her and bringing her anew. So we collaborated again with BFI and O Miami for this Goulds Park's performance. And Goulds Park, I feel like this performance here was so important and impactful for me because this park has been a part of my life growing up here in Miami, down south. And unfortunately, this park has been plagued with a lot of gun violence. So there's a lot of blood that have seeped into the soil of this park. And I really, truly believe that it needed some cleansing. So we decided to do a performance piece, a different rendition of Offerings at Goulds Park. And this is also one of the first times that my entire family came to the performance and experienced seeing me as a performance artist and not just a visual artist. The reason why, again, this park was so significant because my father would go to this park all the time and play tennis, and he actually witnessed a young man take his last breath at this park because someone put a bullet in his head at this park. So, yeah. We collaborated with Jadelle McPherson, who's a fierce artist, vocalist out of New York. And she and Hattie had gone to college together, I believe. So I wanted to share a video with you all from this performance. So, and then we'll take some questions.
Poem about my rights. Even tonight, and I need to take a walk and clear my head about this poem about why I can't go out without changing my clothes, my shoes, my body posture, my gender identity, my age, my status as a woman alone in the evening, alone on the streets, alone not being the point. The point being that I can't do what I want to do with my own body because I am the wrong sex, the wrong age, the wrong skin. I suppose it was not here in the city, but down on the beach or far into the woods, and I wanted to go there by myself, thinking about God, or thinking about children, or thinking about the world, all of it disclosed by the stars and the silence. I could not go, and I could not think, and I could not stay there alone as I need to be alone because I can't do what I want to do with my own body, and who in the hell set things up like this? And in France they say, if the guy penetrates but does not ejaculate, then he did not rape me. And if after after stabbing him, if after screams, if after begging the bastard, and if even after smashing a hammer to his head, if even after that, if he and his buddies fucked me after that, then I consented and there was no rape, because finally you understand. Finally they fucked me only because I was wrong. I was wrong again to be me being me where I was. Wrong to be who I am, which is exactly like South Africa penetrating into Namibia, penetrating into Angola. And does that mean, how do you know if Pretoria ejaculates? What will the evidence look like? The proof of the monster jackboot ejaculation on black land?
Sea santísimo, ay madre mía, de la caridad, ayúdanos, ampáranos.
Cool. So I have a question here. It says, when you are creating a work, are you thinking about the audience as well as the theme you are exploring, both or something else? Yep, I consider both. Because again, we are the works that we're doing are site specific. So we're well aware of where, who the audience is and what we want to say to the audience. A lot of the work is, we want to engage the community or the neighborhood that the work is being done in. For instance, when we did the Goose Park performance, everybody from the community came out, even though it rained, and having the altar there, to Yemaya and Oya and Oshun, and the food offerings, we have those things there. So we want the audience to become a part of the experience as well. And I think that is a part of the activation, because you want to socially engage your audience and have them be a part of the experience that you're presenting to them. This performance is so powerful. Was the rain a part of the pen, or did it inform the performance as sort of a natural element you improvised with? No, we didn't play in that rain. But Oya did. She's the tempest, so she controls the weather. And again, when you're doing this kind of work, you are inviting your ancestors to speak with you. So she brought that rain, and that park needed that cleansing that day. And what was impressive was that nobody moved, nobody left. Everyone stayed and shared that space with us, in spite of that rain. And I think that the rain did add a powerful element to the performance. But I wish I could take credit for that rain. Thank you for sharing the video. Oh, Nugent Smith, holla, holla, holla. Thank you for sharing the video. Incredibly poetic. How do you think about the poetics of movement in your performances? I think we explore a lot of gestures, right? So we're incorporating familiar gestures from whether it's a flick of your hair or, you know, the Black girl beat, or going straight to traditional Yoruba movements that are connected to deities. There's certain movements that people that are children of Yemaya that they do. So kind of bringing in those gestures to kind of create these movements. But a lot of it is kind of like instinctual, responding to each other. And we're also using poetry, and Jadel's voice is absolutely beautiful. So responding to not only the poetry or the music, but actually just having this instinct to kind of move and respond to each other. So where were you born and raised again? I was born and raised in the county of Dade, 305 till I die. Thank you, Shire. I hope that answers your question, Nugent. And thank you for being here. Thank you. But yeah, a lot of, this idea of gestures, right? And I think that if your audience can see themselves through these gestures, they connect more. So if one of the little Black girls in the audience saw me do something like this, she knows that that is something very signature to someone that looks like her, and it is speaking to her. So it's very important for us to be able to connect with our audience and have them see themselves in this work. I love you, Shire. But yeah. Another thing I wanted to say about the performances is that the communities that we decide to have the performances in, we agree to do some sort of community engagement with that community. So for instance, with the Schools Park performance, we agreed to do a series of artistic workshops with the after school programs of the boys and girls and that attend the after school program. So it's like, we don't ever want to just pop up, do this performance and it's over with. We feel like the performance is the catalyst to build a relationship with those folks in those communities. What is the role of institutions and artists to enable public mourning, especially considering much of our country's liberal youth are not going to churches? What is the role of spirituality on the left? Well, I think that, art can be your church. Art can be your spirituality. And I can't necessarily dictate to somebody what brings their spirit peace. But we're hoping that if we can kind of gather and hold space for one another, and if we got to cry and yell or laugh and sing to kind of support and bring that peace, then let's do that. Do you develop performance work primarily on your own or in collaboration? Oh, so what I wish I had more time. I ended up actually doing a performance piece on my own for NADA during Art Basel. I had an amazing opportunity through, again, BFI to have a performance the open day of that fair and then the closing day of that fair. And then I had an installation, an altar that I had built in their booth at NADA. So I do work on I've started to work on my own as well. That was a little nerve-wracking because to be the sole focus of a performance is a lot, and that was new for me, but it was refreshing to kind of have to tap into something larger to hold space for myself. Did any of the young people who frequent the park play basketball there show up and engage in the work? Yes. So, funny story. So that day when we were setting up for the performance at Goose Park, there were 3 little girls, that came out of nowhere and was like, oh, what are y'all doing? And we want to help. And we started talking to them and engaging in conversation with them. And they helped and they were asking us questions about the altar and what we were doing. And so it was 3 little girls. 3 performers, myself, Hattie, and Jadelle, and then the 3 female deities that we were honoring that day, that being 9. And 9 happens to be my life number. It is also the number of Oya, one of the deities. And the performance started at 9:30, so 6 + 3. So all of these kind of like things that kind of happen when you're doing this kind of work, it's kind of magical, it's kind of nuts. But to continue my fact, those 3 little girls, I never saw them again. And I looked for them when we did the workshops at the center. I never saw them again. But a lot of the youth did remember us from that performance when we went to do the workshops. How has your practice informed your interaction with youth in our community? Because again, I make it a part of my performance work that I have to engage with the community that I'm doing the performance in. So whether that be doing workshops with youth at a school or a community center, or it is a part of my calling to interact with youth in any shape or form. Do you consider narrative structure in these performances, or are they an expression of a collection of relevant themes and ideas? It depends. I think it's a little bit of both. I think we do go through a journey, but they are a collection of narratives. They are a collection of themes. It is talking about holding space and Black women mourning and Black women still having to hold it together and still, show up for everyone and be present. But again, who shows up for them? And most of the time it's us showing up for each other. So yeah, seeing as though we weren't taught about Black history in school, what inspired you and who was your mentor or friend of me? Okay. Who inspires me? All of the amazing women in my family. Mentors, I have many mentors. I think that mentorship is important. We were talking about this the other day, how we want to be the adult that we needed to be when we were youth. So I think that is a part of my mantra, showing up for young people the way that I needed someone to show up for me when I was a young person. So mentorship is huge. I consider a lot of people mentorship. I have kids that I consider mentors. I have young people that I work with that I consider mentors. So I have a lot of them. I'm inspired by Kimberly Crenshaw, all of these Black feminist academics. Toni Morrison, she is my ultimate favorite. If anybody knows me, they know that I ride or die for Toni Morrison. I live for her. June Jordan, we use a lot of June Jordan's poetry in our performance work. Angela Davis. I could go on and on and on. What led you to Yoruba cosmology and belief practice? Again, it's by circumstance. I think it was by, I don't believe in coincidence. I think that it was supposed to be that way. Me being from Miami and being well aware of Santeria and voodoo and just being so intrigued by trying to figure out where my lineage comes from. And I'm doing a lot of research and reading, and I came across Yoruba, and I thought that it was beautiful how they told stories through the vocal, through the oral history and the cosmology, and how beautiful it is to think about this larger scope of how we exist and our ancestry. So I don't know, I think it kind of just happened that way. What can I do to show up for Black women? Woo, John, that's another, you got to join my TED Talk later for that one, because I don't even think we got enough time for me to even go into that one. But I can say real quick, listen to us. Just listen. We've been silenced and invisible for way too long. Just listen. Because most of the time we're telling the truth when we know what we're talking about. what is your takeaway from the extraordinary experience performance? There's so many, but I think the largest one is there's no coincidence that, and it also assured me that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing through this work. Because there's always these little moments of like, like the 3, 3, and 3. It just reassures, just the reassurance that I'm doing exactly what I need to do for my communities through my work. Loni, can you tell us about Art Detectives program? Thank you. Okay, so Art Detectives. Not only am I doing my own stuff, but I'm the coordinator for Art Detectives, which is a program here at PAM that is bringing law enforcement and young people from various communities together through the viewing of art to have dialogue about the dynamics of law enforcement and youth in our communities. So it's gonna be needed more than ever, especially in this climate that we're in right now. Is it gonna be difficult? Hell yeah. Especially because of the climate that we're in. But I truly believe that we need a program like this even more than ever, probably across the nation right now. And just beginning to think about the history of policing and how there are things that need to shift in policing in America. So programs like this that allow for folks, especially young people, to begin to have dialogue and a safe space to do that is more than imperative right now. Let me see, any more questions? I think I missed one. Do you think performance feels more or less accessible to audiences? Do you think engage more readily, more fully with performance than other forms? I think it depends on how you set it up. Again, I go for immediately engaging the audience as much as possible by inviting them to share and exchange objects or food from the altar, or being in close proximities of the performance, breaking the fourth wall and engaging the audience to partake in a call and response or a chant. Like those are all things. It depends on how you, the performer, engages the audience, how you decide to bring that audience in. That's on you. And again, if the audience can connect and they can see themselves in something that you're presenting, they're going to be engaged. They're going to be engaged. That's been let me knock on wood, that's been my experience, because folks see themselves. Thank you for representing our community consistently, no matter how much exposure or erasure you experience. Thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done. I'm in the process of being very cerebral right now and thinking about a lot of things and really understanding my role in this fight, and my role as an artist and just as a human being, as a Black woman right now. And just thinking a lot about what's my next thing. And, you know, art is my weapon. And I have to always be ready to aim and ready to fight with my art. Do you have any upcoming performances planned? No, not of right now, but you know, hit me up if y'all ready. If y'all ready, let's get it. I'm always ready. You got to stay ready so you don't get caught off guard. Megan says, how can we support your work, Loni? I think that Megan, we can discuss that more. I think just showing up, providing space for these conversations to be had, providing space for this type of work to be done, What are your ideal spaces to perform? I can perform, you know, we built this work to be performed anywhere, whether it's in the White Cube, whether it's at a park at the basketball court, whether it's at Chef Creole, whether it's at a beauty supply store. Like it needs to be able to live anywhere, because it's about also accessibility. Where are the communities that where are our audiences? Where are they? Who are we talking to? And how do they have access to this work? You know, so it can exist anywhere. Female, yeah. Yeah. Well, I can put my Cash App. I'll do that. I can do that. If y'all want a Cash App, that's fine. Do you have any? But no, I don't have any upcoming things as of yet. But you know, we always conspiring. Always conspiring. Buy her photographs or performances. Awesome. That's great. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm rolling. That's great. Let's see any more questions. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I think that we are, we are up. Time is up. I just want to say again, thank y'all for sharing space. Thank you. You're good to close again. Yes, I think, again, I want to thank you for allowing me space and us sharing space together. Just be safe, everybody, and have a good one. And thanks again, Marie and Anita, Denise and Andrew. Y'all are the real MVPs for holding it down for the AV. And be safe, everybody. Thank you.